A very monumental day today, Wolfpack. It's good to see you all because today we're doing an entire tour, finally, of the board game collection. I have 136 games in this collection, and by definition of that, I'm like, if there's a set of expansions for a particular game, like Ankh You'll See in a second has like 5 boxes, that's one game. So I have 136 games, I think, if I counted everything correctly, that has all been played in this entire collection. And we're gonna celebrate this moment because it is a very short-lived moment, because in like 12 hours from now, there's gonna be 7 more games coming in, and it's gonna go from 0 to 7. So we gotta enjoy and celebrate those little wins. Am I right? Or am I right? So let's get started. I'm gonna show you shelf by shelf, and then I think it'd be super fun if, like, as I go through each shelf, I'll just tell you which one off the top of my head, like on spot, is my favorite from each particular shelf. And quick little premise too, what you see here is a very raw form of these shelves. Like, I haven't organized it at all. I think that'll be a whole separate video when I like cull some games. I don't think there's gonna be much culling here, but these are like, this is my current collection after plays with like multiple people. So things have moved in and out. We're just gonna roll with it as the game collection is. So let's get started with the tour. Shelf number 1, we got the party games up here. So Captain Sonar, we have Tapple. I think there are also the Brass Birmingham / Lincolnshire ships that I still have, that I saved from the box that got run over, that I mentioned many times on my channel. This is also up top. We have Not So Neighborly, wanted to support my friends over there. So I got this in store when I saw it in stock, and I was like, oh, that's awesome, gotta get this one. Not So Neighborly, it's a party game. We also have Sabotage, another fun party game, very thematic. We have, speaking of boba, there's also Boba Mahjong. Now I know it's in shrink wrap, but I played this a bajillion times because we were demoing this at San Diego Comic-Con last year in 2023 and was helping Tate out. So that's why he gave us a free copy as well, which is super nice of him. I have that in shrink still. We have also Splitto, really fun party game. Love this one. If you've seen my monthly wrap up last month, you know that we talked a lot about Splitto. There's also Phantom Inc. Now, Phantom Inc. we just did photos for, did a lifestyle shoot for this. And the best thing about party games is that when you're doing party games and you're shooting these kind of games with models and everything, they get introduced to a whole new world of board games. And this is one really good way to do that because it's very easy to learn on spot, especially for like a shoot day. And everyone's very, like, the chemistry goes really well together when we shoot party games. So Phantom Inc. was wonderful at doing that. And one that fell in the back that is apparently not in stock anywhere at all, because a lot of my friends were looking for this one to buy. That is 2 Booms and a Room. This is like a, you know, team versus team. There's like a secret infiltrator. You're trying to figure out, well, you're trying to help one team. One team is the bombers, and the other team is like trying to save the president. And, you know, it's a good social deduction game that is a ton, full of tons and tons of laughs. Don't watch me while I do this. Okay. Shifty Eyed Spies also causes like the most giggles and like laughs overall in any party game setting. Medium, there is Risk Strike. Now I actually enjoy this one a lot, even though I covered this for like a promo video, but this is really fun because the combat here, really simple. This is really good, easy, like it won't fit in my pocket, but it's like a good pocket game that's fun to carry around, full of combat. If you need that combat-esque fit in your pocket type mechanic, that's a great one. Night of the Ninja, classic party game by Brother Wise Games. Love it, always a hit. I've never had a bad experience with Night of the Ninja, even in like a completely like stranger setting where like you don't know anyone around the table. Play Night of the Ninja and tell me why. I'm always the one who ends up getting killed for these kind of games. Like, I'm just like an easy target, you know? And then after that, we also have, this is actually Jackie's game, Organ Attack. If you like science, you have science friends, they're gonna love this card game. And then last but not least, yet another classic party game, and that is Werewolf. So you notice here that I have a pretty small party game shelf because, well, everything else is. I usually don't like to play party games, and honestly, we only play party games during the holidays anyway. That's why I just, like, this is perfect for that. So if I had to pick one, to keep, which is very difficult. I'm actually looking at the rest of the shelves now. It's very difficult to do this, but if I had to pick one, it would probably be Captain Sonar. The amount of stress and tension and yelling that this game causes, this right here creates ultimate game night memories. So definitely my favorite from that shelf if you're looking for a party game. Let's move on to shelf number 2. Okay, shelf number 2, I have Honey Buzz. I have an expansion to Wonderland's War. Okay, I haven't played with expansion. It's not gonna count, okay? What I meant by every game played, all the base games and some expansions. Okay, I'm not gonna consider these little tiny box expansions. Forgive me. If I get a single comment down below saying, Tim, there are actually still some unplayed games in your collection, I may have to buy some more to compensate for said comment. So don't do it. All right, with that out of the way, Tapestry and all the expansions, I'll show you in a second, actually the Stonemaier shelf. And then we also have Iwari, Santorini. Honestly, this game doesn't get played at all. I only use this game for the little mini houses, which work wonderfully to shoot photos with because they're like the best card holders. And then Wonderland's War, The Wolves, and Small World. So I tried to put some area control in here. It kind of moved as you have these games on this side. And if I had to pick one, Wonderland's War by far. I gotta be honest with you here. Shelf number 3 is gonna make things very, very difficult. So I do have a copy of Root in shrink. Why, I don't know, just don't ask. I also have Aquatica, Hyperborea, Vindication, Lords of Ragnarok expansion. So we're not gonna count that. And then we also have the Awakened Realms Vault Story Dice. And I don't know why I have a neoprene mat. Red Rising here should be over here. It should actually be over here in my little playmat section. If I had to pick one from here, not counting Root and Shrink because the Root shelf is actually over there. If I had to pick one, it'd be between Vindication and Aquatica. It is probably gonna be Aquatica just because Aquatica gets played more often and it's way easier to table, but still Vindication is like right there next to it. If I could just get this tabled more often with more people, but that's harder to table. So Aquatica is gonna take the crown for this one. I'm gonna go ahead and fire off the next like 3 shelves back to back. So we have a big box of Scythe in here with all the expansions in there. The Vindication Leaders and Alliances expansion. Oh, I really want that big white box of Vindication though. I feel like it would just condense everything and I wanna play through all the new content that Orange Nebula came out with too. Brass Birmingham, this one needs to be given another shot. I did love the game a lot, but we did play it pretty off. So we missed like a couple of rules that I want to fix. And then of course, Ice. So these are some really, really big hitters here. And I mean, it's gotta be Scythe. I would probably pick Scythe. Okay, that's a hard one. But I think Scythe because I've played this the most out of all of them. And then Brass like needs another chance. Ice has a new edition that's coming out, so I'm gonna probably wait until that one's out, but I still love this version and like the artwork and everything. It plays extremely well for the first edition, so probably gonna stick with Scythe for this one. Next shelf, we have Lords, pretty much the Lords of Ragnarok / Hellas shelf. All expansions here. Ragnarok, Overlords of Hellas, any day now. There are so many different quality of life upgrades in Lords of Ragnarok, and I love this game. This is something that I would definitely want to table more often moving forward. And this is just actually just the Rise of Fenrir, which is a campaign for Scythe. I don't see myself ever playing through the campaign of Scythe, maybe later in the future. I feel like I have other options for campaign games right now, and Scythe is something that I enjoy multiplayer versus solo campaign or co-op. As you know, I don't really play that many co-op games. And then I say that, yet we cover a lot of co-op games, so I don't know. And then I'm just gonna let you figure out which one is my favorite from here. Right? So we have Kemet, and I also saw that they are coming out with a brand new, was it a new expansion or something to Kemet? I honestly don't think Kemet needs any more expansions, but I'm still excited to see what they have in store for it. If they're changing game modes, cool. If they're adding new god powers and stuff, I'm gonna be kind of indifferent about that because it doesn't really need more gods, more stuff. It needs more like gameplay variations, if anything. And then Ankh, like this is a problem. I can't believe there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5 boxes worth of expansion content for Ankh. That's ridiculous. So favorite from here, Dwellings of course, but I want to figure out a way to condense Ankh. And if any of you have any solutions for this, let me know in the comments below. Now we move on to the next bookcase. You notice here, I don't have Calyx, and the only reason I don't have Calyx shelves is because everyone has Calyx shelves, and I'm like, I want something different. That's literally the only reason why. And I actually really like the look of this. This is still IKEA though. It's like the Hemnes shelves, so bookcases. So this is the second bookcase. You notice up here, I actually have all the painted models of Lords of Hellas up top because I don't know where else to put them. And then first shelf, a little continuation of party games along with like a complete random mix, like I said earlier. We have Agree to Disagree. This is a really fun party game too. I need to put this over there actually. We have Fort, Seven Wonders, one of the first games I ever played, Bantam West. Come on, this review is probably gonna come up next. We have Whistle Mountain. Oh my God, I should have been playing Luke Laurie's other titles from so much long ago. I don't know why it's taking me so long actually to dive into his other work, but Whistle Mountain, so much fun. And I can see the DNA indwellings in Whistle Mountain by far. Love that one. There's also Scout, little mini card game. And then back here is Fork. We have Kirai Duel, which is a little bit out of place. And what else do we have here? Buzzed Out, some more party games. I feel like this one, Decrypto and Time's Up. I think Time's Up is probably the oldest party game that I have here. So many laughs with this game. And I think this Decrypto might actually get called. This doesn't get played as often as I would like. And it's been okay, like it's been good. But I know some of you have mentioned like, oh, keep Decrypto. And that's the only reason why I've literally mentioned it, or kept it, is because all of you have mentioned it in the comments last time I talked about that game. Favorite from the shelf? Bantam West by far. Next one, second shelf, we have, look at this. Look at all of these Merchant Codes expansions. It's so crazy. But luckily, the latest expansion to Merchant's Cove, not only is it adding more classes, which is really cool, so many fun new mechanics, but at least there's one big box that can hopefully fit all of this. And then there's also Viticulture. I haven't played this for a minute. It's been a long time actually since I've gone through Viticulture, but I love that worker placement game. We have Raw. You all know how I feel about Raw from last year's, one of the top games I played from last year. Forever Home and Dog Park, along with the new expansions, are right up here. And what is this? Oh, new tricks. Collector's Upgrade Pack. And now we're getting more into the Stonemaier shelf. And the reason why, well, not only am I like taking a lot of the photos for Stonemaier games, but I mean, I was a huge fan even before I started working with them. So I've always collected their games to begin with. So we got Wingspan, along with a lot of the expansions, the latest Wormspan, along with all of the new resource upgrades that I haven't put in the box just yet. Also Parks and the Parks expansion. I'm probably gonna end up trying to fit the little mini box right here into the base game if I can. Pendulum and Return to Dark Tower, along with the latest expeditions. And I actually just got this huge upgrade for Bitoku that I need to put together this wooden insert because Bitoku needs it. I don't even know why that game did not come with an insert because the amount of stuff in that game is insane. But I love it though. It's a really fun game and I love it enough to get an insert. How about that? So favorite from this shelf, Return to Dark Tower, Expeditions, Wormspan, probably my top 3 from here. I would say Wormspan because again, just like Aquatica, it's a game that I can play and table more frequently than Return to Dark Tower. Like even though there's a competitive mode for Return to Dark Tower, I honestly don't feel like it's truly competitive because you're still cooperating to defeat the monsters, you're not fighting each other. And in the end, it's like whoever can just snag that last hit on the final boss. So I think that's why Wormspan is like a truly competitive game that I love out of this entire shelf and one that I would choose to play a little bit more than Return to Dark Tower. Between me and you, can I ask you something? For this next shelf, do you think Everdell needs a bigger box? Because yeah, it takes up the entire shelf. This is the biggest. I think this is actually, no, actually, that's a lie. That is a definite lie. I was gonna say this is the biggest board game I have. It definitely isn't because that one is up there. But we got the complete collection of Everdell here, along with Seasons. And this box is so torn. It might be one of my oldest games in this entire collection. And then Wandering Towers, and yet, I was like, why do I have another copy of Root? But this is Root that I got in Spain. So I wanna condense, I'll see everything's all disorganized, but I do wanna put all the roots together. And then up top, I also have the sleeves, which I think going forward, I don't really want to buy card sleeves in Kickstarters. I always just add them because I'm like, oh, that looks cool. But then the texture is never my favorite. And I always just end up getting like the same matted Ultra Pro sleeves for everything. So that's why I haven't sleeved this game because yes, it looks good and it's the official card sleeve pack, but man, it's not my favorite. and some other tokens. I don't even know where this is coming from. So see, it's pretty disorganized. All right, be honest. How many of you, raise your hand, how many of you collect games to just be a completionist? Because that is me with Villainous. We played through all of these and man, like it's continuously fun and I want to collect more Villainous, but then like the more I collect, the more shelf space it's gonna take up because I think with all expansions, it would literally take up this entire shelf. Also have Warline and they have an expansion coming out to Warline, which I'm super excited for. And this is the 2-player game that I played with Josh back in the day. We did a gameplay on it, I think it was last year. And then Septima, played this twice. It was during some holiday last year, just me and Jackie. Really fun, but a little bit messy when it comes to like the witch hunt. And I think the severity of it, like the consequences weren't as dire as I would have wanted it to be, but still, I think it's a game that I do want to revisit. And then Queen by Midnight, terrible rulebook, but the gameplay is there, the card play is there, and it definitely competes with Marvel Dice Throne for me. These two games here I like a lot, but I'm not sure if I love them enough. So out of all these, Warline is probably my favorite from the shelf. It's a fantastic 2-player game, love the factions in there, and it's very chess-like, and that's why I like it so much. Now, moving on to the final shelf on this shelf, we have Marvel Dice Throne, speaking of, Ashes, Bark Avenue, Bitoku. There's also Libertalia, and then DSA along with a ton of the expansions. Despite DSA being here and Bitoku, Marvel Dice Throne, I pack that every time I go to a convention or just anywhere, and it's just so easy to pack. Love that game. It's probably one of my favorites of all time. Do I dare ask this question? How about that Chai Kickstarter, y'all? Oh, okay. So we have Chai up here along with the other games that were related to Chai. There is Sweet Mess, the deluxe edition. I have played this game too. There's the prototype version, and then they sent me the official one later. So thank you, Pike Games, for sending that over, along with the really nice deluxe coins. Look at these beautiful deluxe coins. Also some promo cards too, little ice cream module. And then Gap, the one that just fell over. There's also Trails, Boss Monster, and the first game that I ever played with Bonds, literally when we became friends, and that was Shobu. So Shobu is very nostalgic in that sense. If I had to pick a game from here, oh, that's a tough one. Shobu is good, Sweet Mess, Turing Machine. I would have to say Shobu, because it reminds me of, Boss Monster. There's like such a big variety in all these titles. It's like, okay, do I want that family game? Do I want a calculative type game where I'm crunching numbers? Do I want to play some easy worker placement? Do I want to be conniving and deceiving and just wreck people with Boss Monster? Do I want just like a straight up chess-like, checkers-like game for Shobu? Oh, that's such a tough one. This might be one of the toughest shelves. I would have to say if I could only keep one, it would probably be Shobu. Easy to table, one of my favorite abstract games, and a game that I could just keep playing over and over again. Shelf number 2, we got the heavy hitter, one of my top 5 games of all time, Blood Rage, Ready, Set, Bet, and of course, oh my God, Root and Blood Rage in the same shelf. I didn't know I did that. There's also the unmatched Bruce Lee set, Betrayal, along with the expansion, and Rolling Realms. Now, Rolling Realms, I think, is the only roll and write in my collection. And like, I don't like roll and writes in general. Rolling Realms is totally different. It's really fun, actually. So between all of these, I would have to say Root, my number 2 favorite game of all time. I mean, it made my list, my top 5 all time. Root takes number 2 spot, so Root's going to be my favorite in that game, of course. Then, moving on to shelf number 3, we got Ting Gardens Azul, the first one, actually still in shrink. I played this many times across like so many different settings, but mine is still in shrink apparently. We have First in Flight. I just played this recently. It really surprised me a lot because not only is the theme fun, but it almost feels like Heat, except you're flying with like planes and stuff. So it's a good spin-off of Heat, and that's why I really enjoyed that one. Okay, Red Rising. This is a fun little quick snippet about this one. So the reason why I have the collector's edition in shrink is because we played through the retail edition of Red Rising so many times to the point where like all the cards are like so beat up. So I'm like, okay, I definitely need to get a collector's edition now, because at first, when I first put out this video a long time ago about my review for it, I'm like, oh, I don't know if the collector's edition is worth it. It's worth it for me now. I really wanted the metal pieces and everything. So that's why I got this one very, very recently. It's actually pretty hard to find. I don't know if it was in stock. I think I got it from like a third party. It wasn't from Stonemaier directly because it was like out of stock when I was looking. And then Steam Up, Keyflower. Back then I had such a hard time learning Keyflower. Like, yes, it was like one of the first times we learned games, but oh man, this was a really difficult game for me to learn back in the day, even though it's just about like auction and bidding and stuff. And then Between Two Castles, also by Stonemaier Games. Ooh, the favorite from here, y'all, if I ever make a top 5 underrated games list, this is gonna be on there, because Red Rising is not talked about enough. Don't look over here, I don't want to spoil all the titles on this side, look only on this side. Okay, so here is the super heavy pirate coins, Castles of Burgundy, and all the Marvel Champions stuff. I mean, again, sticking to that list, so top 5, Castle Burgundy, my favorite by far. But Marvel Champions has collected a lot of dust for me. I am doing a top 5 like solo games of all time, so we'll see if Marvel Champions makes it on that list. But it's definitely collected a lot of dust. But I did get the Wolverine back when it was on sale. I think by I forget what store I got it from, like Miniature Market or something, or Game Nerds when they're at Game Nerds. It was actually during the Game Nerds sale when I bought this pack for it. And then right below that, we got, okay, I'm not gonna count Oathsworn in this one because Oathsworn has literally its own shelf. So clearly Oathsworn is gonna be the favorite in its own shelf. There's a reason why it has this entire shelf dedicated to itself. And I guess between these two, between Heat and Bullet, oh, like they're very closely related, because yes, you do have that racing game for Heat, but they're both very, very tense games. Bullet does play a lot faster though, and it's definitely more, well, actually they're both very interactive because you're sabotaging people by sending all these bullets to other people playing Bullet, but then in Heat, you're obviously racing against each other. I would probably, oh, that's such a hard mix. Why are you making me do this? It's not you, it's me. Probably gonna have to go with Heat, even though Thunder Road Vendetta has the fix for me for Heat. But the only reason for that is because Bullet, some of the powers are a little like way out of balance / like out of whack here. So it's not as like, because that balance is so like skewed and strange. I think that's the only reason why I would probably pick Heat over Bullet, but I still really love this game. It's a ton of fun. So we are reaching the final 2 bookshelves here. And with that, I really want to know, like, in relation to all of you that are watching this, what's your board game collection like? Like, do you have a much bigger collection than me? Do you have a much smaller collection than me? I definitely want to know. So let me know in the comments below, like, count how many games you have and tell me if I am within the range of your collection as well. So let's talk about this top shelf in the second to last one. Here actually is all of my TCGs and Here to Slay. I feel like Here to Slay, it doesn't get played at all. It literally hasn't been played since my last review of Here to Slay, so that might be cold in the future. But I guess between, let's see what I have here. I have Lorcana. Dennis, if you're watching this, thank you. I definitely need to actually play this game soon, very, very soon. Like along my top 3 TCGs I need to play. But between Lorcana and Magic the Gathering with Lord of the Rings, this is actually the dice box from Awakened Realms back when I covered it. Between Lorcana and Magic, I would probably choose Lord of the Rings, Magic, only because I've played it before. But I mean, Lorcana's like, it wouldn't be fair. Like the only game I played on here is Lord of the Rings, so I'm probably gonna pick that one. And then over here, there is Dice Hospital, Seize the Bean, Sonic Roll, and the expansion to Castles of Burgundy, but I'm not gonna count the expansion. I also have a bunch of Street Fighter expansion stuff here. So between Seize the Bean, Sonic Roll, and Dice Hospital, I would probably choose Dice Hospital, just because I love the theme there so much, although it's much lighter than Seize the Bean. So I'm definitely like, it has to be in the mood for it between those two. Still great games. I will probably choose Dice Hospital, maybe in general, but it's a pretty close mix there, like I pretty much am saying for every game that I'm choosing between. For the shelf below that, we have Empires of the North, a great engine builder. It's a really fun entryway engine builder, but there's a lot of stuff to do. There's Hickory Dickory, a great worker placement game. It has a really great mechanic where you're moving mice around the clock. Age of Wonders Planetfall, actually those aren't mine, those are for some friends. And then we have Thunder Road, Vendetta, Stardew Valley, Raiders of the North Sea. Played this recently, love the worker placement of it, and I didn't know they had an app too. So moving forward, I do want to get into a lot of the Garfield game series. And then we have Dubious, and then my copy of Age of Wonders Planetfall. Thunder Road, that's a winner there. I think I saw recently that Thunder Road won like best light game of the year from Board Game Geek, but I don't think it's light at all. I think it's like a medium game for sure. Like to me, Azul, Dice Hospital, like those are light games, right? But there's so many more things that you're doing in Thunder Road, Vendetta, and all the terrain that you have to watch out for. Light games are games you can teach like kids. You can kind of teach Thunder Road to kids, but there's so many different powers involved. So I don't understand why that one was considered a light game when it definitely is not. Shelf below that, we have Hoplomachus Victorum and Hoplomachus Remastered. Now I love that this is a solo only game, and Hoplomachus Remastered is actually something that you can play competitive with the same kind of system. Between the two, probably Remastered just because I can play with other people, but the campaign in Victorum is amazing. Definitely want to talk about this down the line. Okay, in my little corner of clutter here, I got this initially for some playmats, and now all my playmats are completely full. I have playmats all over the place here that don't even fit in all the holders anymore. And I do not want to get another one because, well, that would introduce less space for more games. Okay, this shelf below it, I have Avatar: Last Airbender RPG, which I'm probably gonna get rid of because realistically, we just can't get an RPG group together. Haven't even played it all, it's all brand new, but it just doesn't get played and it collects so much dust. I also have the Marvel Collector's chess set, which was a gift from Jackie. And then below it, we have actually Sushi Kitchen. That's a really fun kids game where like you're using chopsticks to pick at these little ping pong balls kind of that are just floating in the air. So you turn the game on and it blows air into it and you're just trying to grab the ping pong balls with a chopstick. It's ridiculously hard for adults. So can you imagine kids trying to grab it? So it's a really hard game, but it's fun overall. It's just a really goofy, silly family game. And then there's Nemesis, Lisboa, and Mythic Mischief, the part 1. So between all of these, I think Lisboa is by far my favorite. Nemesis, I'm still kind of like cold on this one. The first 2 games that we played on it, I was a little kind of lukewarm about it. Even though we played it wrong the first time, we fixed it and adjusted the rules for the second one with like combat and stuff. So that's why like I don't want to give my full thoughts on this just yet, and why it's still staying in my collection until we play it right and we play it in its full, hopefully, glory. But overall, I love Lisboa. It's like such a fun brain burner. Probably one of the most difficult games in my entire collection. And right below that, actually, is taking up almost the entire shelf, is Frosthaven, unsurprisingly, along with Catan and Super Mario Chess. That's the easy one. It would be Frosthaven. But I also don't see myself playing through the campaign of Frosthaven as often. Like, for me, Oathsworn already fills that need. And yeah, I might even make a whole video about like campaign games in general and which ones that I would recommend in like overall. But I mean, Frosthaven, really fun, but so hard to table because there's so many different pieces for me. And even after you learn the system, but I love playing through like the app. And now there is a Switch edition for Gloomhaven, and that one I really enjoy. But Frosthaven, really fun, but just hard to table. Here we are at our final bookshelf for everyone that has made it here. Props to you all. Thanks for hanging out with me as I talk about just a bunch of fun games that I have collected for so long. But what do we have here? Up top, we have Primal and ATO and Infinite Rabbit Holes' escape room game. Now, between the 3, so I've only played Primal like through the first prologue and the first chapter, and I'm still thinking about the combat mechanics to see if it flows as well as it should be for me. And then we also have ATO. ATO, I think I've had more fun like with initially because I love the premise behind it, and without any like spoilers and stuff, I saw some of the upgrades and I'm like, oh, I'm really interested to see what's next for this. So between the two, if like I had to pick right now, I would pick ATO, but that's based off of like a very preliminary judgment of that. Now, moving on to the shelf below it. Below that, I have Let's Go to Japan, The Great American Male Race, and Bonsai. Bonsai I got literally because of Bonds. We played it on her stream and it was so much fun, so I got it for myself too. Let's Go to Japan, it like surprised me a lot. In terms of the gameplay, something very different for light games that I've played before because you don't even know what people are scoring until the very end, and I love that. But I honestly would choose Volda. Now, This is a game that people are sleeping on. Like, I don't see a single person talking about this wooden themed game, but I'll talk about it more. Either way, favorite game from that shelf. Moving on to the next one, we have actually just two here. Bantam West and Fox Experiment. I chose Bantam for the other one, so I'm gonna choose Fox Experiment for this one. And then the third shelf, oh, you know my answer to this one. Like, come on. We have Black Rose Rebirth. I'm gonna ignore Great Wall for now because it has its own shelf below that. Among Cultists and Summer Camp. Summer Camp also not talked about enough, and you can just pick that game up at Target. So much fun because it's a really easy deck builder, very, very light deck builder and worker placement game. But Black Rose Wars Rebirth takes this by a mile. Excuse my mess over here. We have Great Wall by itself. I don't know how I feel about this one. Like, the work placement is fun, but the rule book overall is so finicky, and some of the rules have so many different edge cases where I'm like, I don't know if we're playing this right, and some of the mechanics are kind of funny, but it's like holding on by a thread. And it's holding on enough for me to definitely want to give it one more chance before I cull it or keep it. Now after that, we have Zuvadis, Fractured Sky, Nucleum, and Mythwind. Ooh, Nucleum is a big competitor to Brass, Birmingham, Brass Lancashire for sure. And then it's probably the heaviest game on this shelf by far. And then Mythwind, something I enjoy completely solo. If I had to pick one from here, I will probably pick Zuvadis. If we're talking about like competitive games or between like games that you can play with other people, I would probably pick Zuvadis because this just causes so much fun negotiation, laughter, and I think it's just a very different game where your player powers in terms of asymmetry is like the structured differently. Like, you don't use your own powers for yourself, you use it for other people. And that's why I really loved it. And it puts you in a very different situation that we're not normally accustomed to. And then the final shelf, there are the expansions for Return to Dark Tower, along with the Street Fighter game. I mean, I would pick Return to Dark Tower. Street Fighter ended up being like a bluffing game, and it's definitely one that I'm keeping more so for like the minis. I definitely need to revisit the gameplay a little bit more, but honestly, if Street Fighter took the Hoplomachus Victorum mechanic and chose the combat there, because in Hoplomachus Victorum, you're traveling from city to city, and really feels like, if you ever played the original Street Fighter video game, that's exactly what Hoplomachus Victorum feels like, where you're even, I mean, you're not recruiting in Street Fighter, but you are recruiting different people in Victorum, and like you're fighting people in their base region, and I love that, and I felt like if Street Fighter took that complexity on, would have been so much more fun. And then lastly, on the floor, we just have a bunch of the expansions for Primal. Where this is gonna go, I have no idea just yet, but it's there. All right, so that right there is a wrap on my entire board game collection, completely played, and will remain that way until I open up some games that are on the opposite side of you tomorrow. So it is gonna be a short-lived victory, although I don't know if it's a victory or not to have no new games. So, you know, it's a little bit of give and take. Like, it's cool, and it's a great feeling. It's very satisfying to know that I played everything, but at the same time, it's like, well, what's next? Like, I want the next new thing too. So I can't help it, and I'll be dead honest about that. I encourage you all, though, to definitely try to do something similar to this if you want to get your collection played too. I try to play at least one new game a day, and that's actually a future video too, where like, I think I'm making one where I learned a brand new board game every day for 30 days straight, and I really did, to get my collection down to 0. And even though it's short-lived, it was a victory nonetheless. So this collection is going to be changing a lot. Actually, probably the next time you see this, it's going to be pretty different with new games coming in, and games going out, and yeah, all that. And yeah, with that said, thank you all so much for being here. If you made it here to the very, very end, I appreciate you so much for hanging out as I share my excitement with you all about all these awesome games that I've been collecting. If you made it here to the very, very end, comment victory for a victorious milestone down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and hope you enjoyed it. See you next one.